You ever end up in one of those situations where you realize you're completely out of your depth? Or where you wish you could turn back time and change the course of history? Well, I certainly did, several times in fact. But I'm getting ahead of myself now. Let's wind back to when this story began. In the middle of Zero's first tournament, the very same one I somehow won, there were already plans to hold a gimmick tournament. This time, it was Little Cup. If for some reason you're not familiar with competitive Pokemon, Little Cup, which has its origins in Pokemon Stadium 2, only allows level 5 Pokemon that are the lowest stage of the evolution line but can still evolve. Some key ideas here will be translated into cassette beasts.
Oh, it's frozen solid!
Anyway, going into this, I already had some idea on what to expect. The Cassette Arenas mod, made by N-Crafters, is a neat battle tower style mod released long before the multiplayer update. One of its supported formats is a debut arena, which only allows the first stage lines excluding the ones that can't remaster, just like Little Cup. For this tournament, we'll play at level 20, the lowest available option, in spirit of the original format. Back in July, we still played with Fusion Power enabled, but by the time the tournament happened much later on, we moved to only allowing Fusion since some of the status effects were too much on top of their high power. Attributes are disabled to keep the barrier of entry low and not be grind to win, plus it avoids turn 0 auto win chaos. We also play with no duplicate stickers since it's more interesting that way. Same goes for no duplicate species. We also have a handful of banned moves after some testing and community feedback. We also eventually banned Call for Help since we don't want the grown-ups to get involved. In the spirit of only accommodating for the lowest power level the game has to offer, we also played with an additional restriction of only allowing monsters with a max AP of 5, which bans the use of the following. If you disagree with this rule, at the end of the day, the PvP scene is largely unofficial. It's not like this max AP restriction is a hard rule for anyone who wants to run their own tournament. This is just what we went with and agreed upon. Still, I can offer some arguments for why this format had an additional max AP restriction. If not for this 5 AP rule, the roster would include some 10 AP behemoths. Stardegrade is quite egregious here since it has a very efficient stat spread that makes it hard to get rid of. On top of that, it has 8 move slots at 5 stars compared to most other species that only have up to 6. Koneko, meanwhile, is a well-rounded powerhouse capable of making full use of the 10 AP for burst damage, like Last Rites or Multi-Strike Rapid Fire, which can delete an entire health bar at this lower power level. So, some of the 10 AP ones are very strong. Still, that leaves the ones with a max AP of 6. Allowing them in means Ritual is still on the table, plus some of them just hard outclass other mons. One of the most powerful mons in this 6 AP range, Ice Spec, has such insane stats that it can dish out big damage like there's no tomorrow. And while not as awful, Alzir is still a force to be reckoned with. Despite only having 4 move slots, Alzir boasts one of the highest range attack stats and can threaten huge damage with Wonderful 7. However, if we stick to the 5 max AP restriction, we also have to deal with the Bulletino and Twirligig in the room. Bulletino is too fast that Icicle Dart becomes unbearable, and Twirligig is too bulky, yet it can obliterate you with Brace for Impact as a metal bootleg. So, after some testing and deliberation, Twirligig got quick banned not long after. We eventually voted for a Bulletino ban. LC was supposed to take place about a week after the end of Zero's Tournament number 1, or T1 for short. Real life got in the way, however, so I couldn't join. But it got cancelled, and instead the standard tournament took place after a few weeks. If you've ever interacted with me on Discord, you might know that I work on a ton of other cassette beasts related projects, to the point where I spend more time on them than I do actually playing the game. Adding in YouTube to the mix was just too much for me. As if that wasn't bad enough, I also happened to be busy that month, and what little free time I had, I spent editing the first tournament video. I eventually got burnt out from cassette beasts, so I took a short break away from it, which does mean I have to pass up on some PvP action while I try to regain my momentum. We wanted to have a gimmick tournament after Zero's third tournament, or T3, and Little Cup won with a majority vote, so that's what we'll be doing next. Second time's the charm. Problem is, I haven't done that much PvP in the months that passed, so I am very much behind in the scene. In the 2 weeks of preparation we have, I had to scramble for something and figure out how to catch up with everyone else. I wanted to experiment with a hyper offense archetype. The goal is to apply immense offensive pressure right out of the gate, make risky sacrifices to get safe switch-ins, and try to sweep in the endgame with fusion. Hyper offense is difficult to pilot effectively since you'll be down a team member too early if you're not careful. This playstyle doesn't have good answers to fusion, so I have to be precise with the KOs I take to slow down the enemy's fusion meter, since it builds up faster to overspill damage. I also need to have control over the tempo of the battle since hyper offense will lose in the war of attrition. My first pick for the team is Trapworm since it has one of the highest melee attacks in the format and has one of the best bulk to boot. I chose Astral since it's just good both offensively for hitting fire types and defensively for rapid fire and other Astral type attacks. Its main attacking move is the old one too, but I also ran Desperation since Trapworm's so slow that it could tank a big hit and retaliate back. I also ran Fire Claxley so that I can run rapid fire with the same type attack bonus and compensate for its slow speed stat. Claxley has the highest range attack since its competition in Ulcer and Salamagus are banned due to having 6 AP, so it's a good choice for the offensive playstyle I'm going for. I left out Springload though since that would anti-synergize with Trapworm and the other tapes I'll be using. To consistently afford these high AP moves, I need AP Factory. The first such user on the team is Musketeer. It gets multi-copy, which makes it an excellent lead choice to take advantage of the ever-present echolocation lead. However, its main appeal is Stab in the Dark plus PT AP. Under Evasion Nullified, it's just big damage, but outside of it can be used to generate 2 AP per attack with multi-target. I went with Lightning so that Quick Smack can dispatch air walls generated from Claxley's rapid fire. For Evasion Nullified support, I added in Fairclaw, one of the best monsters in the format. It has the highest base stat total of 700, which is way above the typical 600 for most mons in the format. It also has impressive offensive stats and access to Sticky Spray regardless of type. This allows me to both have a PT AP mode with just Musketeer, or a Stab in the Dark mode through Sticky Spray. I chose Beast type since it's good defensively. I still need a new leaf user so I went with Boltam. It is the fastest one in the format at 150 speed. It has no good attack other than Icicle Dart, so I just rolled with it. To round out the team, I chose Kitelli for a second AP Factory user and for custom starter Copycat. CS Copycat bypasses Machine Curse, so you can use this to revenge kill for free or realistically get a buff or something. This has been explored before, plus only a handful of players optimized their sticker order against Copycat, so I thought I'd give this one a try. I also ran Earth type for Crumble, since there are no natural Crumble users in the meta. Walls are much better when there isn't a Palangolin running around to use Fair Fight, and I want something other than New Leaf to deal with walls. Kaylee would have been a good partner choice here since the low power level meant that more bulk is generally valuable. But I ultimately settled on Barkley since the speed difference allows me to have multiple options in play. For instance, I can run Fairclaw Boltam for the classic New Leaf plus Sticky Spray lead. But if I switch them around, Fast Fairclaw on Barkley, is faster than Boltam, so I can instead go for Sticky Spray Icicle Dart. This can also be applied for Musketeer and Fairclaw. Fast Fairclaw allows me to use the Stab in the Dark mode, but slow Fairclaw means I can have the rat generate AP for Fairclaw to use. Satisfied with what is effectively my first draft team, I decided to put it together on my testing save and go do some practice matches. Let's assess the situation. This team is quite good at its job as hyper offense, but I still keep missing crucial KOs, especially on Kaylee teams. Kitelli is also trying to do too much that it's just not working for the team. I need AP Factory to get things done, but CS Copycat consumes AP, and that anti-synergy is awkward. Not to mention I almost never click Crumble anyway, so clearly it needs some rework. Meanwhile, the auction tournament happened on a separate server, so I was thinking about LC while also trying not to mess up my bids. LC got postponed by another week through a majority vote, but even though it looked like a push for more time, little did we know that we were already running out of it. News arrived about the next major update of Cassette Beasts. It's exciting, but it would also spell doom for a little tournament. Version 1.7, the Gauntlet update, introduces the brand new Magic Crabs Gauntlet as endgame content. At the time, we only knew about this, the new Fashion Pack DLC, and some other promised changes that will affect PvP, such as speed tie resolution and starter moves plus dual wheel bypassing Machine Curse. So why is this a problem? Well, once the update rolls out on the 20th, motivation to play a gimmick tournament is going to plummet. People will want to try out the new content, plus new changes will naturally attract interest on our standard rule set, not on LC. Down patching isn't an option since you can't do that on console platforms, and we don't want to exclude console players. The worst thing that could happen would be for the update to be released mid-tournament, ruining its integrity due to sudden mechanical changes that are completely out of our control. So I thought, we have no choice but to wrap up LC before the 20th because we might not have another chance at it until next year, and I really want to play Little Cup. Unfortunately, Zero has gotten busy with her schoolwork, so she can't organize this for us. Normally we can just wait for a more opportune time, but time is not something we have anymore. We cannot afford to reschedule this again. So with her permission, I have decided to hijack the whole thing and organize LC just so we can bring this to the finish line before it's too late. I made the announcement on midnight the 15th my time, gave everyone about 34 hours to submit their teams to Snake, who volunteered with helping with running this event. With a total of 8 participants, we have to finish the round robin phase and figure out the top cut in the span of just 4 days. So now it's time to worry about what to bring for the tournament. I have a big decision to make here. Do I experiment with something new given the limited time I have to plan and assemble a team, or should I stick with what I'm familiar with but adjust on the fly against meta developments? I started with the latter here since, again, I've been inactive in PvP for quite some time now, so I thought I'd have more comfort using part of this team than to start from scratch. Let's start with the Trapper. From practice, I didn't really use Desperation all that much. I would like another way to set up Evasional, and Bite plus Trap Jaw would fit perfectly here. That does mean dropping Machine Curse, but that move is already hard to squeeze in when you have 2 less slots to work with, so I'm fine with this trade-off. I instead moved Machine Curse to Musketeer. From practice, Custom Starter Life Absorb picked up new usage since it's free damage outside of MC. Under MC, since Life Absorb heals 100% of the damage dealt, you don't end up chipping yourself, plus a self Life Absorb on a Fire or Poison type would give free buffs. To protect the rat from Life Absorbed, I replaced Nod with Machine Curse. Nod was neat in concept, but I didn't use it all that often in practice. As a side note, I did not run Mind Meld on this team even though it's really good in a vacuum, and it's all because of this Musketeer. AP Factory activates by speed order, so under Mind Meld, it would have all the AP instead of Trapper with Cloxley, my 2 main damage sources. Now onto Cloxley. Dropping Machine Curse made sense here, so I can benefit from evasion up from the opponent's CS Life Absorb. I also reordered some moves so that echolocation is last. Ace Arms only buffs the user so multi-target doesn't matter. But more importantly, this is optimized against CS Copycat since I'd rather they waste their 2 AP getting multi-target than copy Race Arms. For the final move, I chose Gasoline Spray as an anti-ghost solution since you can leverage Flammable to indirectly burn ghosts and to either force them to switch or lose 20% of their health that turn. As we'll see later, this wasn't a good option. Nurse or Shrapnel would have been better here. Next, I need to find a replacement for Keteli since I'm forcing it to take on so many roles that it fails to be good at any of them. AP Factory is its most important job, so I decided to lay off both Copycat and Crumble in search of a better support one. I eventually settled on Elfless, who can use custom starter AP steal. With PT AP, I can fish for the 70% and deny some attacks on switch. But under Machine Curse, I don't lose any AP from self-targeting. It also has multi-copy so I can keep it as a lead. To top it off, I added in Magic Tome since it's just a good move to have, plus you need to have attacks on your support mon so that they can do something when your whole team eventually gets enough AP. I went with Beast type since Elfless is mainly here to do support, so being neutral against everything was acceptable for me. I only changed the typing on Fairclaw from Beast to Plastic so that I have an answer to Astral. Type Advantage attacks are 30% stronger, and since I'll be using Sticky Spray anyway, a crit boosted the old one too can do wonders here. I made no change to Boltam other than reorder some moves to optimize against Copycat, similar to what I did to Cloxley. I will be sticking with Barkley as I explained earlier. With the team finalized, which by the way has their names inspired from the students in Lena's Inception, also made by Buten Studio, all that's left for me is to actually get this tapes for real, submit my team to Snake, then finally do some admin stuff after the submission deadline. As is usual, the tournament will be an open team sheet format with round-robin best of 3 matches. The top 4 players move on to a single elimination bracket. So, let's go over my matches. I've made a playlist where you can watch all the match footage if you want to go have a look at that. Just please be nice and respectful to all the players if you leave a comment. This is already a bad start for me since J won T3, the most recent tournament, whereas I shouldn't have won T1. I need to be efficient with my KO since otherwise I can just fuse with this Jumpkin, and all of a sudden I don't have an answer to Nurse Fusions. In game 1, Fairclaw barely survives this attack since there's only a 1 in 16 chance that Fairclaw gets KO'd here. Jay scores 2 quick knockouts so I pivot in to go for a fast Sticky Spray and threaten big damage with Icicle Dart. From there, the game snowballs out of control, so I take game 1. For game 2, because he has host advantage, his Claxley always outspeeds mine. But he can't use rapid fire next turn, so this forces a switch. I tried to reposition but I got caught in a pin. I had to remove evasional so as not to take fatal damage on my character, but my Trapworm suddenly became weak to metal after New Leaf. Here I overpredicted and kept Trapworm in since I thought Jay would assume I would switch it out, but that didn't pan out. I tried to claw my way back but I couldn't assemble the comeback in time. For game 3, I ran the classic Sticky Spray Leaf combo, but an unlucky crit on Fairclaw meant I was already behind in this match. I still have Musketeer though, so I took advantage of Fairclaw's parting gift with Stab in the Dark. From here, I have to keep getting KOs while keeping his fusion meter in check. Jay scores another crit on me, but Elfless barely survives. With my fusion meter full and the opposing Barkley done, I close out this set. And of course, my round 2 opponent is Sora, who at the time haven't dropped a single game. Its team has a lot of counters that can shut down my strategy. For instance, her Fairclaw can come in at any time to use CS Fire Stunts and block Trapworm's offense, plus I don't have much bulk in the team to reposition properly. As such, I am constantly being forced to make awkward decisions where if I make an incorrect play, I am just likely going to lose. This is also where I find out that Gasoline Spray is not a good option, as Fireproof easily deals with Flammable. In typical me fashion, I try to make a play that doesn't pay off thanks to my luck. So yeah, I'm completely outclassed here, unable to win a game. This team seems to be built around defensive plays as Jumpkin has Life Absorb, Carniviper can go for fast walls, Elfless has Nurse, and Serenade can remove its statuses via New Leaf. I have to contend with Serenade's updraft blocking Cloxley, but I'm not worried about that because Musketeer can use Quick Smack. I boldly click Rapid Fire in the face of an air type, and it pays off for me as the Serenade is switched out. Musketeer's Quick Smack does wonders here, allowing me to chip down the Serenade. I switched things up game 2, but because I did not go for an echolocation lead, I can't generate the needed AP to consistently use the old one too. Later on, I safely switched in Boltam and went for Sticky Spray since right now my Fairclaw is the more important target for them. I then close out the game with double Icicle Dart. CS Nurse has a 54.5% chance to activate, which is crazy to bank on. Needless to say, I have to account for random free heals over the course of this set. In the beginning, I just hack away with Fairclaw in defiance of Minor Tom's plastic wall. I safely switch in Trapworm here since Cloxley pressures Rapid Fire on Minor Tom. CS Nurse procs and Serenade gets a free wall, but Trapworm can handle Serenade. However, I slipped up and dealt too much damage. So now I have to fight against the fusion. Even though Erratum effortlessly cuts through my tapes, I eventually get a full fusion meter and claw it back. For the next game, I just went with a Cloxley lead. Kofi thought that I would dare not click Rapid Fire on Serenade, but I do so anyway, dealing huge damage to the incoming Fairclaw. From here, I just plowed through everything with Rapid Fire, and although Serenade continues to be a problem, with the opposing Barkley down, I closed this one with my numbers advantage. Tem's team goes rather aggressive with a CS plus attacking move, so obviously I'm going to have a Machine Curse lead. Ghostly is also an issue, but the team has no Dog Ears user so it's less worrisome. He leads with Carniviper and that quickly got punished by Machine Curse. Since the Carniviper stayed on the field, I secured a quick KO on Barkley. Banship shows up next and successfully gets Ghostly, so I have to get Boltam in the field to get rid of it. After which I quickly end the game thanks to Icicle Dart and Bite. For game 2, I switch up leads, opening myself to CS Charge, but it at least landed on Fairclaw. I go for Sticky Spray Icicle Dart, and while Barkley got hit by Trick Shenanigans, he cooperated and brought one character down. From here, Icicle Dart takes out the remaining opponent. I don't even know where to begin here. I think I was tired that day, so prepare yourself for a series of bad plays I'm about to make. Dive's team has a conductive mode via Boltom and Kitelli, Eugene's here and I have to watch out for Claxley, and he also has 2 wall setters. Dive having access to 2 walls meant that he could block my opening plan, and for that Boltom had to pay the price. I decided to use gasoline spray here to pressure a switch, but I blundered by using rapid fire instead of switching, which cost me game 1. I switched things up game 2, but Claxley barely lives thanks to Eugene's signature tape boost. Musketeer almost goes down, but thanks to that I go for the reverse sweep with Fusion. For game 3, I tried to punish the conductive play, but Elfless missed the Kitelli. Thanks to contact damage, I get a clean KO on Kitelli, which allows Trapworm to clean up. Even though it's a 2v1, I struggled to close this one out. Several times I could have gone for Magic Tome to end this, but for some reason I didn't do that, instead prolonging this unnecessarily. Mommy's team features the 2 mons that have over 6 move slots in this format. Because this team has a lot of speed options, I need to watch out for Pirouette here. For game 1, we start off with the multi-copy wars. This goes on for a whole 30 seconds just waiting for this chain to end. She switches in Amphair, but that leaves Brushroom wide open for the old one too. Now, had the Musketeer not crit the Pirouette, Viola would have barely lived the minimum damage the old one too, and Mommy would have access to Fusion, so I had to go for the safer play of Bite, which gets punished by the manual wall. Looking back, I should have went for Quick Smack plus the old one too here. I threw the game here by switching in Boltom, who's slower than Fairclaw. But then Amphair switched out instead of attacking, so my team barely survived the Fairclaw's attack. I closed game 1 through a rapid fire fusion. For game 2, I got super lucky with Stab in the Dark landing on Pirouette, followed by a crit on the Fairclaw, which is how I realized I should have gone for that in game 1. Despite the several mistakes I made during the round robin phase, I somehow made it to the top cut as second seed. It is starting to show that I've gotten sloppier with my game, so I need to get serious if I were to succeed. By the way, during all that I first encountered what we now call the partner bug, where a partner prematurely gives up even though you still have usable tapes in the back. Apparently this has been known for a while but no one brought it up to me before, so I had to add in a clause to redo the match if the partner bug happens. It's the final day. I wasn't feeling too good after my mistakes in the round robin phase, so I have to pull this one together if I want to get to the finals. I went with the Boltom lead since I expected Minor Tom to set up walls, which I dispatch off. But now Trapworm is a sitting worm and Barkley's Berserk. Icicle Dart just barely denies Minor Tom from setting up another wall. I score a huge KO on Serenade, and had CS Nurse not activate, I could have won on the spot. This time, however, I play carefully so as not to throw away this huge lead. I change it up a bit for game 2. While this looks like a mistake on the surface level, it's a carefully calculated move. The Unicast though was not. The Minor Tom comes in to block my quick smack and Elfless starts fishing for dual wield trick. The status hacks here is super great because I now have to deal with Confuse. Fortunately, Trapworm played nice here. I tried to go for the decisive blow while making sacrifices, though Boltom didn't succeed in winning on the spot. I don't want to take any chances, so I close it out with Fusion. We finished our side of the bracket, but Jay and Sora haven't yet. While we still have some time left, something urgent unfortunately happened, which meant that Jay won't be available for the rest of the day. At this point, he was forced to concede here if we want to get to the finals in time. But that doesn't sound right, that doesn't feel right. The top cut is an important part of the tournament, so being forced to drop out like that was just not satisfying at all. And so, with time running out, I made the heavy executive decision to postpone the tournament until after the Gauntlet update releases, and accept that doing so will affect the tournament's integrity. One thing you need to understand is that the PvP community is very small. As such, I at least personally consider it important that we look out for each other, because then who will? We will not be leaving anyone behind here. It's not like there's a prize pool anyway, so it's a compromise that's easy to make. And just like that, Little Cup has been put to a standstill, for the midnight train has finally arrived. I gave everyone a week to enjoy the new update before we go back to PvP business. In that time, I did a totally normal thing. Beat the Gauntlet, in impossible difficulty no less, within the first 24 hours of the update's release. I dove straight into it that I didn't even know that you can put more than one rare attribute on your stickers through sticker fusion. But after a grueling 10 or so hours of getting to the Gauntlet, I finally made it to the end. Oh, and I also got this cool hat while doing so, which I'll be wearing for the rest of the video. The top hat will be returning next time, so don't worry about that. A couple of PvP related changes happened as well, the most important one being that Berserk no longer blocks passives, which is an indirect buff to neutralize. Clubber is now also 1 AP cheaper, and would have been significant for LC, but no one brought Clubber so it's fine. The other semifinals bracket has finally concluded, and I'm up against Sora. In a way, this has come full circle since Sora's tournament way back when. Now we're here again for a proper rematch. However, I still have a terrible matchup against her team. Because Fairclaw can randomly come in with its CS fire stance, I have to be wary with my melee attackers. Uppercut is also an ever-looming threat in which its Haunt Dog Ears combo is a win condition if my Boltam falters. But I also need Boltam since I'm constantly worried about fire stance. Worst of all, because the Dandelion has Nurse, I am almost guaranteed to lose if Sora gets fusion up because I could get locked in with an unhittable ghost or an unbreakable healer tank. The odds are stacked against me, but there's nothing I can do about it now. I just have to play well and hope I can take the win. For game 1, I feigned New Leaf Sticky Spray but just went for the offense, though Boltam survived. I kept trying to click Icicle Dart for damage. After Neutralize activated, I should have went for a self New Leaf here because Boltam going down means I don't have an answer to Ghostly anymore. I transform into Cloxley to pressure huge damage in spite of Fireproof thanks to the range defense down. I should have just used Bite and Trapworm since the old one too gave Sora a full fusion meter. But since I can no longer hit ghosts, and she can afford Dog Ears every turn, I've already lost game 1. Game 2, I go for a rather unusual lead to try and get Evasional up. I capitalize on this by switching in Elflesh to prevent the Trapworm from attacking. I got lucky with CS Haunt not activating. I managed to bring down Puppercut and even correctly used AP Steel to prevent building up its fusion meter. I was gaining a lead win by clean KOs, just waiting for Fairclaw's Haunt to expire. But in the next turn, I made a game-losing mistake. I forgot that Fairclaw was faster, so I ended up using the old one too before I could leave away the Fire Stance. And from there, my fate was sealed. It was doomed from the beginning. This team was not strong enough to win the tournament, but more importantly, I was not good enough to bring it home. Sometimes it's hard to take a step back and appreciate how far you've come as a player when you make several blunders throughout and lose out in such an embarrassing way. I just felt like all of this was just wasted. But I have since come to terms with this outcome. I am fine with this loss. I am fine that LC isn't my story. I lost to someone who brought a better team and played better than me, and that's how things should go in the tournament. It would not have been satisfying anyway to see me win LC when I make horrible plays like that. It didn't feel like I deserved the victory. But that's not going to be it for me. There's still more for me to learn. I can still improve and get better at the game. And knowing that I still have a ways to go before I can match the other top players just makes me want to play more. Oh yeah, we also finally banned Vengeful Curse. Something also had to be done with Nurse Fusions, and the community voted for a Nurse ban over a Fusion ban, so that's gone for now. The journey to the top isn't easy. It was never meant to be easy. But I will persist. It might take me a long time to get there. Heck, I might never even get there. But I can confidently say that I do not regret a single second spent on this journey. Thanks for watching. If you like what you saw and want to support this channel, I've set up a coffee page which you can check out down in the description. You can buy me a metaphorical coffee, donate one time, or make it a monthly thing if you're feeling generous. The channel is not eligible for monetization yet, so this is the best I could come up with for now. You can also do the YouTube thing if you want, like, subscribe, comment, whatever.